As always, it's my intention that this episode helps you to connect to your own higher self, that you listen and trust your own internal guidance, and that you have the courage to follow that guidance. Leave your ego at the door, set aside your mind, open your heart, and connect with the spirit. Allow yourself to experience the frequency of today's message. I'm Stephanie Zumwalt, and this is the Higher Self Connection. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me again today. Today, we're going to talk about fear and how that stops us in our life, and then also how you can face it head on. The message I got from the Higher Self today is fear is absolutely an illusion, and I'm going to go into that message a little bit more as I get into this. But it occurred to me in dealing with my own fears that fear is the most programmed response emotion in our body. Fear is one that it feels like it's really difficult to get past. It feels like it's impossible sometimes. And I've talked about over the last several years, I've been kind of in a flow state where I'm not forcing action when it feels out of alignment. And in that lifestyle, you naturally face fear because your mind will bring up all kinds of scenarios for you to worry about to get you out of being. It doesn't feel comfortable. The mind doesn't feel comfortable when you are in a being state, when you are allowing, when you are present, when you are not worrying about your to-do list, when you're not focused on what's happening in politics, when you're not focused on anything else except for how great this present moment feels. It threatens the mind because the identities that we've created will not exist once we realize that we don't need them. So fear has been a big part of this path for me, and overcoming that fear, really challenging that fear. When I sold my house a year and a half ago, everyone at the time was telling me, it wasn't the right time. Where are you going to live? Rent's so expensive. You have to deal with everyone else's fears when you make decisions like that. But you also have to deal with your own internal fear of am I making the right decision here? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing right now? And for me, it was a yes. I absolutely knew I had been guided to sell that house, and I knew that the path would open up for me, whatever that path was going to be. And it did beautifully. I ended up in an even better house, and have found so much peace and healing in this environment that I don't know what it was about the other one, but it was not peaceful. So facing that fear, then it felt like, okay, but then, I sold the house and the path opened up for me. And then the mind will say, well, that was lucky. You got lucky. And it will bring you back to the next fear. There's always going to be the next one. And I'm sure there's more coming for me too. And so I was sitting with fear the last couple of days. And the way that fear creeps in now is if I get distracted, if I'm trying to distract myself from my life by watching social media, those little fears get implanted in there. And I don't think that they get implanted, but it activates the fear that you have within you already. And so I was sitting with fear this morning, and again, really talking to my little inner child and asking her, how she felt about things. And I mentioned that in a previous episode of how to talk to your inner child in that way. And she showed me how, pretty much from the beginning of time of my existence in this lifetime, I have been programmed with fear. My parents, God bless them, I love them. I have no resentment towards them because, again, I can detach and see how this all worked out. But they were always instilling fear, and it's so funny to me because, if there was ever the slightest sexual innuendo that was on TV, they would turn the channel, but they would turn it to the news or something like that. But just it made me. I was positive that I would be kidnapped or abducted at some point because that was happening a lot, it felt like, when I was growing up, and that was a main topic of conversation, as well as house fires and drugs, dying because of drugs, and alcohol. And I don't want to be insensitive. I realize people do have struggles with that. But as a small child, I think that the amount of fear that was projected onto me was a little out of balance. My parents clearly used fear to keep me obedient. And that's what our society does. If you watch the news for any length of time, it doesn't take much awareness to realize that fear is being used to keep us obedient, to keep us from stepping out of line, to keep us from going off on our own. And when you are trying to come into a state of flow, or when you are just trying to change your life, you are naturally going to come across fears. It's inevitable. I do want to mention my dog is snoring right next to me, so if anyone hears that, that's what that is. He's a loud snorer. Love him. So I in this episode, I want to talk about how do we learn to face fear, and is there really anything to fear? That was my question to the higher self this morning. And what I got was pretty interesting. So I asked the question, is there really anything to fear? Is it true that there is nothing to fear? And this is what they said. They said, if you are tuned into your guidance, and you're the master of your emotions, and you're the master of knowing when to be still and when to act, no. You have healed your nervous system so it's not firing all the time. You just need to trust your guidance. That's all. And the more you trust yourself, the less there is to fear. That, to me, was what I needed to hear, because you get to a point I'm going to speak for myself. I got to a point on my spiritual journey where I could not see what was coming next. You know, I have gifts, I have psychic gifts, and I have in the past been able to predict what's coming next. But I recently got to a point, not recently, I guess about 6 months ago, I got to a point where I couldn't see what was happening next. I had no idea where I was going, what I was going to be doing. I still don't. I'm just working off of my inspired action. But that brings fear. I realized how gifted I was beforehand, and the luxury of that gift, because I could tell what was going to happen. And so then when I couldn't see what was happening next, I really started thinking, well, wow, I mean, like, it really is all about trusting. It really is all about trusting, and trusting myself to know when to move and when not to move. And it still does challenge me at times. But I'm learning that when you're in a flow state like this and just being present, knowing that you can trust yourself in the present moment, everything unfolds in the most perfect way. So I want to talk about what they're saying here with these conditions. If there is nothing to fear, if you are tuned into your inner guidance. The inner guidance part of this, I thought, it's key. It really is. When you think about it, we're all a part of the animal kingdom. I mean, I've been watching, like bees, and I've been watching butterflies. I've seen birds, obviously I watch birds and figure out how they're moving and how they're speaking to one another and how their natural instincts are. And ants, if you ever watch a documentary on ants, like they build an entire empire underground, and it baffles your mind, because they must have some sort of intelligence. And of course they do. They're connected to consciousness too. And the butterflies, the monarch butterflies that know exactly where to go in the wintertime. I mean, there's one location in South America, I don't know exactly where it is, where they all conglomerate for the season, and then they take off when it's time, and they all know exactly when it's time. And it's that inner guidance. It's that inner knowing. And that inner guidance for me is inspiration. It's passion. It feels really good. So I will get an idea. In my book, Higher Self Connection, A Path to Self-Realization, I talk about this a little bit more. But inspired thoughts happen. When you are sitting present, in the present moment, you're just doing whatever it is that pleases your soul at that moment. you will receive an inspired thought. That's how they happen. They come in the present moment. And the inspired thought is something that sounds really fun to do for no other reason but that it sounds fun to do. Your ego, the thoughts that come from your ego always have an excuse or like a reason why you need to do it, or there's a sense of urgency to it. Like if you don't do this, then it's dire consequences. The inspired thoughts are quirky, random, like you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. It just happens. I had one the other day where this filmmaker, I love his documentaries on YouTube. His name's Anthony Chen or Chene, Chene. And he does the best documentaries. And I've emailed with him back and forth last year a little bit. But I saw that he posted a video and he had put a comment on there saying that he was having a hard time finding resources. And immediately I felt lit up. My higher self or whoever, the inspiration hit me. And I immediately sent him an email. And now we've had a couple of conversations back and forth again about whatever I guess the higher self is guiding me to talk to him about. And I'm not connected to the outcome of whatever that is. Like it doesn't matter to me. I just know that I'm serving my purpose because this is an inspired thought. So I'm not attached to the outcome. It just felt really, really good. And I knew that it was something that I was supposed to act on. I've had some in the past too, where I still don't know what the point was. I still don't understand it, but I know that it was on purpose. I know that it was for a reason. And like when I started this podcast again, in the past, I've thought with my logical brain, I need to start this podcast because I need to get some things going because I was resisting my flow state and it would be hard. It would be hard to record a podcast. It would be hard to upload it. Some reason I would hit a bunch of, slow, it would just be difficult. It would be more challenging whether it was downloading the audio file or clipping it all together or whatever. Now that I'm doing this again right now, I'm getting these podcasts done and a YouTube video put up all within a matter of an hour because it's so supported by the universe. It's so supported by my energy, by the timing. It's divine time. So paying attention to what an inspired thought feels like for you. It might be, I feel like going to this coffee place instead of that one. It might be, I feel like stopping at that grocery store, or, oh, maybe I should take this drive home instead of that drive. Pay attention to these hits that you're getting. That is your inner guidance system talking to you. That is your higher self directing you and giving you guidance. And knowing when to not act, when you are in a place, if you can try to detach from the mind that's telling you have so much to do. You really don't. I used to have so many lists and things that I would keep track of, and I don't anymore because I know that I will receive the inspiration in the present moment when it's time to act. But other times I'm content being still. I'm content doing art. I'm content reading a book. I'm content watching the birds. I'm content doing nothing, because everything feels like it's taken care of. So the inner guidance system is knowing when to act on inspiration. And that will also be like, oh, I should apply for this job, or I should pay that bill, or I should whatever. Like it literally, the inspiration when it comes is not like life and death. It's not, I've got to do this or else. It is, oh, I'm going to take care of that. And you don't feel a negative emotion attached to it. So that's the inner guidance that they're talking about. The mastering your emotions, being the master of your emotions, is pretty much what I talk about on every podcast because it's such a big part of this path. You are the master of your emotions. You are the one that's in control of how you feel. And if you are projecting it out onto the world and saying somebody else made you feel that way, then you're not learning what your power is. Being able to be in a situation that does not emotionally overwhelm you controlling yourself so that you're not reacting from a place of emotion. Getting to a place where you can recognize that a feeling that you have inside of you is coming from something that is lingering in your awareness, in your body, understanding where those come from. All this inner child work, shadow work, all of those things will help you to master your emotions. So, and again, there's more on that in my book as well. And we are going to talk more about that because it just has been the bulk of my experience is emotions, and learning to be in control of my emotions and not letting them control me, and my behavior. So when you are a master of your emotions and you're in charge of your emotional intelligence, your emotional maturity, you really can navigate this life feeling much safer and much less like a victim and much less like you're going to be victimized again. That really does help you to build trust with yourself. And then they also talk about regulating your nervous system. Again, this is again managing that emotional response. Now, first of all, most of us are in fight or flight. Meaning we feel like we are on guard all the time. We feel like we cannot rest. We feel like we have to be aware. We have to be worried. We have to be constantly monitoring everything that's happening in our life because we are afraid that something is about to get us. And it's the same response as like if we are being hunted by a saber-toothed tiger. That level of anxiety, that level of fear in our body is not normal. And it comes from being programmed this way by fear. And I'm not surprised people have that response. And then you put on top of it all of the trauma that we experience before we become aware. Our bodies are out of sync. They're out of alignment. They're out of alignment. So regulating your nervous system is going to be really important to begin with, making sure that starting the meditation practice, doing breath work to release some of this energy, constantly telling yourself, reminding yourself, I am safe. And if you're not in a safe place, doing what you can to get to a safe place, constantly reminding yourself, I am safe. I've had mantras for quite a while where I say things like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything wrong. I am safe. I have to remind myself because it feels like the body just gets into this, it gets just clenched and it will not let go. It will not relax. It will not, it just doesn't feel like it's safe to. So research how to relax your nervous system, how to regulate your nervous system. But really I've found breathing, reminding myself I'm safe, reminding myself I haven't done anything wrong, and also doing a lot of this inner child healing has helped a lot because it's really my inner child that's so scared. And because as an adult, you can view things from a different perspective and see like everything seems like it's normal. Everything seems like it's fine, but I don't know why I'm so worried. I don't know why my body is feeling the way that it's feeling. And then also when you have experiences that are difficult, when you have experiences that are challenging and they do make you afraid, they do really test your nervous system. Trying to not react to it, trying to react to it in a place of calm, in a place of witnessing it, observing it. So I had a situation, my daughter gave birth a while back, and I'm so proud of her. It's my third grandbaby, and I'm so proud of her because she had a really horrible experience with her second child, and so the third one she decided to do at home. And it really, as a mother, it scared me. I was nervous. I was really nervous for her. But I didn't want her to know that because she's a grown woman and she can make her own decisions. And that's why I had her, is so that she could be her own person. But when the day came and the baby was coming, she called me and she gave me, if anybody's given birth, the sound right before you actually give birth. It's a very like, oh. And she said she needed me. And so I went up there, and the whole way up there, my entire body was lit up with fear. And I was breathing, and I was trying to witness it and remind myself that I'm protected and that we have guidance, and we are, like doing everything I could to soothe myself in that moment and not feed into it. Not allow myself to be carried away by it. Because if you allow yourself to get carried away by the fear that you are experiencing, you're not going to think straight. You're not going to be able to know what to do in the moment. You're going to be too obsessed with the problem and the fear that you're not able to see the solution clearly, because every time there is a problem, there is a solution. It's already presented. It's just about staying in your alignment to be able to find that solution and not be so focused on the what ifs that you miss it completely. So that was one of the bigger tests of fear that I've had. And I'm so proud of myself for regulating that so that it wasn't projected onto her, so that she could do what she needed to do. And we had a beautiful delivery, and it was so perfect. And he is such a sweet, sweet, sweet little boy that I know is here to make some transformational changes himself. And he was a catalyst, I know for sure, because after that we had a lot of energy shifts. And so trusting, like getting into a place that when you are in fear, you're soothing yourself and reminding yourself, I'm safe, I'm okay, it's going to be okay. This is scary, but I'm going to get through it. And I know that I can find a way. Just big, deep breaths and a lot of inner self-talk, positive self-talk really helps. And so that really helps you to balance your nervous system so that it's not constantly in fight or flight. Also, the foods that you eat, the way that you take care of your body, getting enough sleep, watching your caffeine, all those things really do help. I hate to say it, but they really do. I resisted them for so long, and I wish I wouldn't have, because I feel so much better now. But so if you're following your inner guidance and you trust yourself to know when to act and when to be still, and your nervous system isn't constantly telling you that you're about to die, and you're the master of your own emotions, then you really do not have anything to fear. If you have those in place, then you are able to navigate whatever situation comes up for you next. You can safely sit in the present moment and say, I'm good. And if you're good in the present moment, imagine how happy life could be, how peaceful life could be, how magical it could be. And if you don't trust that you know these things or that you can handle these things, ask your spirit to show you how protected you are, and then watch for the signs. A lot of us on this spiritual path see synchronicities all the time. I see them all the time, so much so that I don't even think they're magical anymore, because it's just natural. It's a natural occurrence in my life. So today I was encouraged to write down all of the synchronicities that I've seen. And I've already seen so many. And when I write them down, you know that when a synchronicity comes, there's a feeling that comes with it. It's not just a coincidence. It's not just a happenstance. There's a feeling that comes when you witness a synchronicity, whether it's an angel number or an insect. So while I was writing this, there was this little bee thing. I guess it's called a hoverfly. And he came right up to my face and just was looking at me. And it made me smile. And I was like, what are you doing? And he sat there. It felt so intentional. He was just looking at me for a long period of time. These things come with a feeling, and you know that they are intentional. They know that they are your guides, helping you, communicating with you, reminding you that you are not alone on this path. You have so much support and you have so much guidance. Life is always conspiring for you, in your greatest good. It's not happening to you, and it's not happening against you. You are here because the universe wants to experience life through you. So why would it punish you? It doesn't. It's the way that we perceive things, and it's the way we've been programmed to perceive things. So I hope that helps somebody. remember there is nothing to fear. And also, the more that you use these tools, the more that you listen to your inner guidance, regulate your nervous system, become the master of your emotions, the more you trust yourself to be able to do, you'll know exactly when to act, when it is the right time to act. And you'll know that you'll be supported by the universe when you do. And if you are focused on, obsessing over the downfall of society or which politician or whatever and what scandal is next, you're going to have a harder time finding trust in yourself, and you're going to be more attached to the fear-based thinking. But if you detach from that, focus on yourself, you will know exactly what you need to do and when you need to do it. If you get inspired to save up a bunch of food, that's fine, but don't do it out of fear. If you get inspired to go buy a bunch of water, do it, but don't do it out of fear. You will know when to move and how to move when it's the time, no matter what. And this world is changing, so that's important. It's time for us to learn how to trust ourselves. So that's what I had for you guys today. I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you so much for connecting with me today. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the book, Higher Self Connection, A Path to Self-Realization, please check out the description for the links. And you'll also find ways to work with me there as well through my website, stephaniezumwalt.com. Have a beautiful day.